As to what we saw in that CCTV footage, I analyzed that, and it's pretty clear. There was some communication between people within Keenan's team and the assailants.
How sure do you know, though?
I analyzed the video.
It's dangerous to be an internet detective, Nota.
And unfortunately, that's the position that we're in when we don't have effective detective work that is being done in this country, and we've got an open case like the Sinzo Meiwa case almost a decade later.
This is the Hustler's Corner.
www.ocontemporary.co.za. If you look to my right, you look to my right, all of those pieces are by an incredible, amazingly talented South African artist by the name of Thandazani Ndlovu. These four over here, they retail for around 8,000. For people in the art sector, they do know that art is an asset. And when you buy a piece, especially from incredible artists like Thandazani Ndlovu, you're basically investing. I can only imagine how much each of these pieces will be worth in 5 years from now. And then if you look on my to my left, the one behind me, it's Tando Ngoenya. This one is retailing just a little above 9,000 rands. But I'll tell you, since it's been on the Hustler's Corner, we're going to put a link in the description. Just click it. It'll take you to their website. But if you don't find it and it's sold out, you know, the hustlers here that we're dealing with are art collectors. They love cars. They love the finer things in life. They love empowering their communities. And then we've got younger guys who want knowledge, who want to learn, and who are staunch and avid subscribers and fans and supporters of our podcast. And for that, we thank you once again. www.ocontemporary.co.za. They are based in Cedar Square, which is around north of Johannesburg, in 4 ways. First come, first serve. If you don't find any of these pieces available anymore, you're going to have to shop for other pieces that they have. But they only have a limited number of these. So in case you are aware. A lot has happened in the past week. NOTA is here. I'm being affiliated with NOTA. A lot of people are being mad at me. Why are you mixing with NOTA? Why are you affiliated with him? And anything that happens to NOTA, they're asking me. Anything that happens to Penuel, they're asking me. We live different lives, but we're on a platform here. The last time we did an episode with NOTA, aka our brother was still alive, may his soul rest in peace. Tibbs, our brother, was still alive, may his soul rest in peace. So today's episode will pretty much be mostly about what has happened in the past week, but also number two, we had an episode we're supposed to record earlier. Some things happened and NOTA will share. He's from police stations, he was with the police, I don't know what happened.
Mental asylum.
How are you? Let's start there, Gushan.
I've been tested by 4 psychiatrists, you know, and they all cleared me.
What does that mean, would they cleared you?
So I was taken for involuntary admission at the Poort View, which is Roodepoort View, but it's in, I think, just north of Remsig, that side of town. It's like a boutique rehab center that has been turned into a life mental health place where people get treated, where people can check themselves in if they feel like they've been having, you know, some difficulties with their mental health, and where my family thought, you know, since I was having another grieving experience.
Is this last week or today? Because today there was another episode that happened. Actually,
yeah, this morning.
We're shooting this 4 hours. NOTA is 4 hours late, guys. And NOTA is never late a lot of times, especially when we're recording podcasts.
Yeah.
So I've had to wait, the whole team, we've had to wait for him for 4 hours. Maybe let's start there. What happened today?
So this morning, you know, I was a little bit in a rush coming here because I was trying to be not late. And I wanted to grab a coffee first to be fresh. Being here for time, Justice was supposed to arrive at 9 for setup. I didn't want to arrive after him, as I'm the guy who sent him here, as I see Stone walking past from Bonga Muffin.
Shout outs to Stone and Meta Bongs. Just seen Murder as well.
Yeah.
Shout outs, bro.
So the traffic cops on where I was coming out from Sloane Avenue, which is the same street where my brother AKA lives on. I was coming out from Sloane onto Main Road in Bryanston, and there was a car that was swerving, and there's a curve right as you get off Sloane onto Main Road, right as before it gets straight, before the traffic lights at the engine garage. There's a part where the road curves. So I wanted to overtake this guy, and I overtook him.
At a curve?
No, just before the curve.
Oh, okay.
The road curves a bit.
Why overtake before the
There's
curve?
2 lanes.
Okay.
So he was swerving in and out of his lane.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to be ahead of him. Okay. So I was overtaking, like legally. And legally, when you're overtaking, you're allowed to go for a brief amount of time over the speed limit. Unfortunately, a still camera doesn't capture video. And I was over the speed limit. And when they checked on the chart, it says, listen, we have to take you in.
So they stopped you?
No, they stopped me, yes. So I was thinking, okay, it's a routine stop. And then they said, hey, listen, you're over the limit. Can we show you the camera? And I went and saw the camera, and lo and behold, I was 40 kilometers an hour over the limit. And you know how I've been on the police officers and the metro cops for obeying the law. So they had to obey the law. And if I was 40 kilometers over the speed limit, unfortunately, DJ Smooth has to wait. I need to go in, I need to be booked in, I need to get my police bail. And so I went through that entire process. And that took 4 hours, you know what I mean? While they were filing, while they were opening a case, and they expedited it as much as they could. They also understood that I have to do some educational content, and a lot of the guys who were there, they appreciated it. The police treated me well. The metro cops treated me well as well. I mean, there was one guy who had some sort of attitude, but I won't let him represent the entire force that was there, And they were just obeying the law. And it just so happens that sometimes, when people can see that you're an influential person and you do an infraction,
they recognize you.
They stop me saying, now NOTA. They recognize saying, now NOTA, now, misan. So you need to be an example. And that's what I have to do. So now on Monday morning, I have a court appearance to explain to the magistrate that I was overtaking, and hopefully when my lawyers explain it and they lay out the statement, the judge will apply leniency, because the camera does show that I was changing lanes, which is indicative of someone who's overtaking a car. And if you're overtaking for that brief amount of time, you're allowed to go over the speed limit, and it should be just one of those police bail refunds where I get my 500 Rand back. But thank you guys for waiting here.
Before we continue,
yeah.
Over the past year, though, you haven't been exemplary with traffic cops and police. You've been seen on videos that you personally posted where you're screaming and arguing with traffic cops at some point, where you're swearing at them. What type of an example is that?
Well, that is the example of what we face when we face police brutality. That is my reaction to police brutality. So what people don't understand is that before those engagements with the police, let me add some. Sure. Before those engagements with the police, I had a case where I was wrongfully arrested within my own home. I was George Floyded. They put a knee on my neck in front of my mother. They scared, they terrified my entire family. So as much as I was posting those videos publicly with cops breaking the law or not obeying the law or not sticking to the rules, and making our country seem more lawless, seem like police are not observing, seem like someone can just shoot us outside of a restaurant because there's no police visibility, So I confronted that, and that was also part of a way of me actually personally dealing with my post-traumatic stress, to actually confront my fear of police. Because after that experience with the police where they had, a knee on my neck, and obviously we'd all watched
a knee on your
neck?
neck?
Yes, on purpose. Because we'd all seen the George Floyd videos in 2020.
So when you're saying they were George Floyding you, literally...
They were doing it on purpose. They were saying you're a small boy while they were doing that. The only thing that stopped them from doing any further harm is because at my complex, the head of security actually secures my unit personally. And watches over me. So anytime there's a police interaction or anything like that, there's a guy who guards the police who comes with a chest camera and holds it like this and records everything that they do. So as soon as the head of security heard that there was something involving me, he drove his car and he was there. And he was there to say, calm down, I'm recording everything. They're not going to do any more harm. Don't resist. You can go with them. Don't worry, I've got you. But it was still a traumatic experience. I was still held for many hours. I was brutalized. You know, I was bruised. Even now, like the cops, they tied my cuffs a little bit too tight. I think you can see some markings, right?
See some marks,
but they loosened them as soon as I complained.
Okay.
You understand? The guy who was tightening them, I had a long sleeve with thick cuffs, so he couldn't feel that. Okay, and I'm a very skinny guy, so it's very easy to hurt me with the handcuffs because you squeeze harder than you would on a guy with a thicker wrist. So they released it, you know what I mean? It was just a procedural thing. It wasn't something where like I was being belligerent with them or I resisted with them. It's just an inconvenience. And one of those things that's unfortunate that our system, which catches people on camera, actually doesn't work well because it can't tell the nuances between someone who's overtaking as well. It's a still photo. A second thing. And also when someone sees a camera, you know, they're more inclined to make a sharp stop, an immediate stop, you know, or they see a traffic light camera, you know, they're more inclined to stop so sharply that they might cause an accident or cause more harm than is intended by just having a speed camera there to ensure that people stay within the speed limits. And so our camera system as well, over the studies that they've done over our speed camera system, they've seen internationally that it doesn't actually work at reducing people's speed. It just actually increases incidents of accidents where people suddenly stop because they see a camera or they're trying to avoid being fined, you know. And they also find that once people have slowed down in time for a camera, immediately after they've passed the camera, they also speed up. So it's not really working that well, except for generating revenue for the city. In fines, etc., etc. But, you know, I'm pretty cool with that whole entire experience. I got to engage with those Metro cops as well. And I could see that a lot of the attitude in our police comes from an apartheid mentality. So it would be very harsh of me to be overly judgmental of them when I grew up with parents who were scared of white people. You know what I mean? And these traffic cops are no different. In this country, you know, authority has been seen as tantamount to whiteness or analogous with whiteness, you know? And that has a psychological effect on our law enforcement where they're more inclined to be more forceful, more brutal on people of color than they are on white offenders. And even while I was in the police station, there was a gentleman who was traveling at 128 kilometers per hour. He didn't even sit in the cell with us. A white man. Yes, I was at 127 kilometers per hour. And luckily for him, because he didn't even sit in the cell, by the time my lawyer came to see me, I heard what his speed was. And I told the police also, please also release me just like you're releasing him, because I was 1 kilometer per hour slower than him and I was overtaking. Yeah.
We're coming from a very tough week. It's been a very sad week. I've been concerned about you.
Yeah.
I've been concerned about AKA's family. May his soul rest in peace.
And
Keenan,
all his friends.
Thank you very much, my brother, for your contributions. Tibbs, thank you very much, my brother, for your contributions. Very sad one, unexpected to the whole country. A lot of people are passionate, people are angry. A lot of things happened on the internet. A lot of wrong things also happened on the internet. And maybe let me start with NOTA because I'm affiliated with you. A lot of people are angry at you due to the fact that, number one, you started calling out witnesses. Sorry, not witnesses. Suspects.
My suspects, yes.
Your suspects online, on social media with no proof. Cops have not arrested anybody yet. And you're naming people. You named some people. You named a soccer team. And at some point, I think you ended up even getting a legal
cease and
letter.
desist, yeah.
And I'm concerned. And at some point, I tried to get in touch with you during the week. I think I tried to calm you down at some point. I'm like, yes, we are all confused. We're all sad. But NOTA, this is not the way it should be handled. And when I'm saying that to you, other people are saying to me, Sbu, leave him alone, because we all know that the police in this country don't do their job. So leave it to the internet detectives. But what if the internet detectives are wrong?
So this is a very tragic situation. It's a very sad situation. Yeah. And the first thing I need to tell fans of AKA, the legacy, is that we need to let go and let God. What you are seeing from me is the exact example of a friend who's going through grief and trauma and finding it hard to accept the finality of a loss of life. I will never speak to Keenan again. I will never hear his voice again. You know, I might hear it in a song, but that's not the voice that I hear when I speak to him. Because Keenan to me is not just a guy. You know, Keenan to me is another me. He's my mirror. You know, he's my measuring stick. You know, when you've got a brother that you're competing against, and every time you grow an inch, your mother makes a mark on the door. And then you can see, when I was at this age, my brother was at this stage. And now I'm at this stage and I'm maybe behind or ahead of my brother. So Keenan was that for me and many other people. I think I had the longest conversation for me about this whole entire thing in general with DJ Feel himself. Because, you know, obviously he was one of the people that I named as saying, listen, these are the people that were supposed to protect and ensure the safety of Kiernan, when he's in Durban. When we travel, everywhere we travel, even now, I mean, if the Hustlers Corner is traveling around the country, we can't have eyes and ears in every single city or town. We trust the local people with our safety, and artists entrust local people with their safety, local promoters with their safety. I wasn't saying they were responsible for his killing because I knew that there was CCTV footage that shows that they were not the shooters. They were not the killers, right?
But you can't be naming them suspects.
My suspects as to people who were involved in an orchestrated plan to leave him vulnerable to an attack purposefully. Now,
why would you think they did that purposefully?
Because that is Florida Road. I don't know how many times you've been on Florida Road, but I know that you've not been public drinking on Florida Road. We don't public drink. You don't even smoke a joint on Florida Road. You know, even if you're having fun, because the cops are there. Right opposite that restaurant
is a police station.
24/7. It was closed on the day Keenan was there. You know, the club that he was going to perform at, that club hasn't been open in a long time. And it seemed as though they were showing us that, listen, something is amiss here, and we have been forced to leave our brother vulnerable in some sort of way. And the only way to express that, right, so that the fans could themselves get more answers, because right now we're in the world of CCTV footage, we're in the world of immediate answers, we're in the world of social media. People will not stop asking questions. People will always have speculation, right? And while they're speculating, right, as we develop the story, people are picking up more and more information. People are understanding more and more about whose role is what. And all I was explaining were those roles. Like DJ Feel, he's a promoter from Durban. He organizes lots of gigs. We trust him. We love him. We know he wouldn't do anything to harm Keenan unless there was a gun to his head to say, don't protect Keenan right now, you know? And Yanga is one of the closest friends I've had in this industry. We are very close. So you must understand that sometimes there's certain things I cannot say. But if I can say something about a close friend who is like a brother to me, who I can have a squabble with, and we can publicly tell people without telling people, because we can't tell people, you know, things that we cannot put in a police docket or we can add as information, you know what I mean, in any investigation. We need to find creative ways to basically explain the story. And when Keenan's fiance, and traditionally Ngesizulu, it would be his wife or wife-to-be, you know, passed away, I was the first friend to fly there. And you must understand, when I say friend to Keenan, other friends were friends and also worked with Keenan. I'm the friend who never ever earned a cent from Keenan. I'm a friend only. Keenan begged me to manage him many, many times. I knew that Keenan is such a cash cow. You can't manage an AKA because you'll have many enemies. He will cause jealousy. That's how successful he is. You understand what I'm saying? It's like having the hottest taxi route. Other taxi owners will want a share of that route or will want to eliminate you from that route. I never wanted to put myself in a position where, you know, there could be some competition with me from either a management perspective, from a coaching perspective, from an advice perspective. So I was his brother in that regard. And something that he always entrusted me with was always giving him a straight and honest answer.
And let me come in there before you continue. Some people picked up an interview. I think it was the last interview that it did when he was speaking about you. He spoke about that incident of when whatever he had just gone through.
And I came to his family.
And he did
yes.
confirm that you did fly to Cape Town.
Yes, but he made a mistake.
So
he said I
let me
flew the
finish-
next day.
Let me finish my question. He did confirm that you did fly to Cape Town. But how you portrayed it was like you flew in to take that information to either... Sorry, guys, I'm paraphrasing here. Go check out that interview. I don't remember who it was with. I don't know if it was on the Sobering podcast. Yeah, on the Sobering podcast. Go check it out. Some people have took a clip and it's all over social media where he's saying... Actually, he sounded like he was disappointed at you. And it sounded as if he was saying out of the information and out of the misery that he was going through at the time, I think you used it negatively against him.
Yeah.
Why would you then say you were his friend and then he would say something like that publicly on a podcast and being disappointed at you and you're still saying that you were his friend?
So it doesn't matter what Keenan would say about me. The mere fact that he's speaking about me means that he's bringing light to my name. That's how big Keenan is. If he cares to mention you, it means he's bringing light to your name. Whether it's in a negative light or in a contrasting light. Keenan and I couldn't speak publicly anymore. Our phones were being bugged. Our phones were being tracked. They were trying to convict my friend of murder. The first thing I did when I flew back from Cape Town is that I told my wife, don't fly me to Durban to the funeral. I'm not going to the funeral. I even didn't call it a funeral. I said, I'm not going to the show because I knew that they were putting him out for display. The first thing I did when I got to Cape Town, right, is I spoke to Keenan. Keenan wasn't even at the house where they were staying in Camps Bay after they moved from the Pepper Club Hotel where they were at. They were in a big house in Camps Bay, and his younger brother, Steph, let me in and said, Keenan is still busy with the cops. They're testing under his fingernails. They're doing the DNA, everything. He came at about 11 p.m. So that's why he misremembers whether I was there on the day or I was there the next morning, and we actually only properly spoke the next morning. When we woke up, I slept there. I was there with his mother. And it was a very difficult time because I needed to now tell his mother that, listen, everything that you're seeing right now, which seems like people are supporting you and are helpful, they're just doing that for the time being. They're trying to nail your son. That's what's happening. And she disbelieved it for day one. But by the second day, she started seeing that. Another friend of ours, close friend of ours, my own protector, myself, Rich Mahog, Jabu, Keenan's protector, like the guy who has our back. When people want to do stuff to us, Jabu has always protected us. You know what I mean? Politically, Jabu is the protector of my freedom of speech, so to speak. You know what I mean? And, he also tried to allay his own concerns and fears to Kianan's mother because, she lost her daughter-in-law in tragic circumstances. But, even prior to that, their relationship was strained between Anele and Kiernan's mom.
But why would you use confidential information that you would know about a friend against them? Because that's what verbally he said.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But
the truth of the matter is that I never used any confidential information against him. Everything that was public, everything that I reflected on was public. But he was just bringing my name up. As I said, is that Kiernan and I had an agreement. We can't speak and we can't be seen together for the protection of ourselves and for my own protection. So that when it comes the time for me to protect his legacy, I can. There were two things that were going to happen to Kiernan. It's either he was going to be charged for murder and found guilty, and the only hope was that he could be acquitted on appeal, or that someone was going to exact revenge in hope of gaining favor with whoever it is that might be a sympathizer after the tragic loss of Anele. Anybody can do that. Anybody is a fan of DJ Sbu. And DJ Sbu needs to be careful on how he controls his public appearance so that his fans don't act in violent manners against maybe people who are criticizing him or his opponents, trying to gain your favor. Sometimes there's a guy who will come to you, Sbuda, Fana, they're out laboring what, just to gain your favor. But now this person has enacted violence on someone which you did not incite, which you did not ask for, which you did not invite. And that was the danger that Keenan was under. Whether or not someone would have ordered a hit on him, someone who's a sympathizer because of a narrative that is, number one, untruthful, because any suggestion that my friend has any intent or the ability to take someone's life is something I reject with extreme contempt. You know, just the suggestion of it is something I reject with extreme contempt. But I understand if someone lost a daughter and they left their daughter in your care, which is the words that I used when I described what had happened to Kiernan the first time I spoke about it publicly, as the first person to speak about it publicly, when I went on Podcast and Chill with MacG.
Before you continue, the very same example that you're making about Sbu and my supporters who might just go crazy, whatever, you did the same mistake because you went on air knowing very well that AKA is a big star, and you even went on as far as even calling some people kafirs. They killed him. And then you even spoke about, what if people now can't even come to Joburg anymore? Somebody else can say NOTA was actually even inciting a provincial war.
Yeah. No, the war is already there. And the K word is not used for blacks. That's the thing, that we need to disassociate apartheid with the meaning of words. That word is to describe non-believers, people who believe in paganism and people who do worships of idols.
In what context
Idolatry.
did you mean it?
Kafir is an Arabic word, and Arabic is the most spoken language on the African continent. So if you understand that,
No. It's Swahili that is the most spoken African language on the continent.
On the African continent is Arabic. It's number one spoken language.
No. Fact checkers, let's
seriously,
go.
the most spoken black language or African language.
The
most spoken language in Africa is Arabic. The most spoken African language is Swahili.
Okay, let's fact check it.
Yeah, you can fact check it.
Okay, hold on. What is the most spoken language in Africa? The answer says Swahili. The most widely spoken languages of Africa: Swahili 200 million, Yoruba 45 million, Igbo 30 million, and Fula 35 million. All belong to the Niger-Congo family. You can learn more about it online. But 10 most popular, okay, it says African here. But yeah, the top result, the first result that comes out when you say, what is the most spoken language in Africa? It says Swahili. Swahili comes up first. But anyway, let's continue. They'll do their own check.
But okay, cool. Look, let's fact check whether it's African language or languages spoken in Africa. Because there's also French that's spoken in Africa. There's also English that's spoken in Africa.
I think that's a topic for another day. But I want to know also how you, in what or in which context did you say that kafir name?
It's the devil worship of idolatry of taking blood from people.
But why would you say these kafirs killed him?
Now,
you guys at some point, you probably won't even have to come to Joburg. It was as if you were inciting Joburg people to sort of fight against Durban people. I understand you're passionate. We're all angry. We're all
that's
confused.
My thing. Is that two parts?
But such an intelligent person like you to go online and record videos and say such content, NOTA.
Yes, we need to be honest. The truth of the matter is that us as black Africans, we have left out the colored community. We have, and that is the truth of the matter.
But
and
colored community is black. They're also black people. Well, the government doesn't classify them as blacks because of our history.
You understand what I'm saying?
But we all know that they are black people.
Yes, but they have an identity of their own and a history that is also painful, that also includes, other people of other races, that might not be a savory history, especially for us. Why? Because when you look at a colored person, you look at the failure of African men to protect their most vulnerable, which is African women, from the rape, and the pillaging that happened. It didn't just happen to our land, it happened to our people as well. And that is the colored community is a result of that rape that happened to African women. It is a result of that rape that happened to Indonesian, Malaysian women, or women from, the subcontinent or India or Sri Lanka who were brought to the Cape as slaves. You know what I mean? That is a history we need to confront aggressively right now because the anger that is building up, that is not being allowed an outlet, is reaching a boiling point. And when you can have someone, Kiernan, who has been prominent in South African music for 19 years as a colored artist, I made one mistake. I read a false tweet once and I called Kiernan and I said, damn it, check for me, but I think Jonathan Butler has passed away. I called him back 5 minutes later to say, no, I just checked, someone was playing a prank. Do you know what he said? NOTA? I call my dad. Now, Kiernan is bigger than Ernie Smith. Kiernan is bigger than Vicky Sampson. Kiernan is bigger than Jonathan Butler even was at his height. And as a colored artist, he is the biggest thing we've ever seen. Number one, as an artist, to have a run on the charts for so long, for so consistent, 19 years, since 2004, this is 2003. And obviously this album is going to he's going to have a good, clean 2 decades. 20 years full, where he's at the height, at the pinnacle of South African music. When they dropped their first debut album in 2004, I went and made a guest appearance on the Sobering podcast, my first guest appearance. And I spoke about how, even though, the head of Universal, when at the time he was involved in whatever Samro scandals, whatever those scandals were, I also had to look at what role this person had played. He was the manager of Deluxe. If you guys don't know what Deluxe, Buddha will tell you. Olilo, Deluxe, that's Magesh.
Mandla Speaker, no, Deluxe was Mandla Speaker.
Sorry, Mandla Speaker.
And Mr. Lindelani Mkhize.
And then he was also a member, what's the group that formed before,
Group which was formed before what?
TKZ. It was between Duma Silela and Magesh.
Oh, you mean Mashamplan?
That's it.
Okay, sure. Mashamplan.
Why would I think Deluxe first before Mashamplan would roll off my tongue?
No,
but anyway,
Deluxe was before Mashamplan.
Mashamplan came
before
after.
TKZ.
Yes.
And TKZ was before their solo careers. Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? So that is the lineage of it. Sometimes you mix up these names. They've got M's, Abo Mandla, Abo, you know what I mean?
Magesh,
All of them.
Yeah,
All of them have men's. Yeah. All of them have M's.
And I actually bumped into Grootman Umdu at AKA's memorial. Great seeing you, Grootman, and thank you for coming through and paying your last respects to Keenan. Sorry, continue.
They didn't even have the opportunity to have 20-year careers. Keenan did. And he did it excellently and always pushing, always pushing beyond. There's an interview that Slicker did where he said that after Kiernan released, he retired. And that is true. It's a fact. We released Dubula with a Kabelo at the same time as Kiernan dropped Victory Lap. And after Victory Lap shot to the top of the charts and Dubula didn't even make a blip.
No, that's not true. Victory Lap, when it came out, Dubula had long come. Let me see.
No, it came out a week after each other. Trust me, I was even tweeting on the Slicker account.
No, when Victory Lap came out...
DJ Slee Live will be the one that will corroborate the story.
Okay, it's fine. We'll check that out.
Trust me. No, trust me. I know the release dates. I was the one who was doing the releases. I was doing the social media marketing, the entire plan. Travis Davis did the artwork where he made Slicker and Booga Love look like police officers. You know what I mean? So we were... Slicker was competing against Kiernan, and Slicker made the mistake of saying, this guy will never have mass appeal because he's colored. What he didn't know was that this guy had learned the essence of this country better than almost anyone else has. Better than almost anybody else has. And you could hear it in the music. He was much more politically astute than artists before his time and artists that we expect to come after his time. You understand? He saw far ahead. He loved his country. I'ma die here in the motherland.
Going
the
back
effect,
to the context,
the context, everything.
And the videos, then you're going to follow up with the videos.
After everything that this person has done to humanize the colored experience, You know, he also never showed anti-blackness. In fact, he embraced his blackness. And he was like, yo, coloreds are blacks. I don't see myself as a colored, I see myself as a black person. You know, although I do have a colored identity, and we know what our colored identity is. And sometimes we need to stop rejecting identities that are contemporary in favor of traditional identities, because times do move, our cultures do change. You know, sometimes before there was the Zulu culture, there were just Nguni tribes that were named after their clan names, them Tetwas, you know, all these different clan names before they were unified. And when we look at
Bantu, and then Nguni, and then from Nguni to then Xhosa, Zulu,
you know, if you read the literature, you'll know that our cultures have consolidated over the times. Our cultures have broken apart, disseminated, you know, had foreign influences, you know, become creolized, you know, all of those things have happened. Like a Creole language is Afrikaans. It's a black language, you know, it's a Creole language. It was made for the workers to be able to communicate with one another and also be able to communicate with their Dutch masters, so they're predominantly Dutch masters at that time. And that has developed over time, and then it only became established as a language in 1875 when a white teacher decided that he was going to write literature in a language that was now called Afrikaans, taken from its original name, which is Afrikaans, which was an amalgamation of languages spoken in the Cape amongst all the various communities that had gathered there in the colony. I mean, while it was under Dutch settlement and even beyond that, under British rule, colonial rule. So what Kiernan represented in the loss of his life was the death of the humanity of our nation. And all of us literally became non-believers. All of us literally became kafir in that instance, when his life was tragically taken from us so brazenly, because people knew that there's nothing that we can do about it. I can rant as much, even with my rant, the police have not named any suspects. They have CTC footage. It's a week later. We have not seen an identikit being paraded or anything else. It's as if there's no investigation going on. I have a friend who lives in the apartment building right above the building where she stays. I mean, where he lost his life, or right above the restaurant.
Above the Wish restaurant.
Yeah. She was there at 7 a.m. She was there watching it at night. No investigations were done. When we watch the videos of Nkabis on SABC1, you see people with hazmat suits with gloves on. We didn't see any pictures of that. We didn't see a lineup. We saw his body laying there. They used his body as the lineup. They didn't even line it up with chalk and remove him from there so they could take pictures. So it was showing that we can take this life and there's nothing you can do about it. And the only reason they could do that, and the reason why I was so angry, and I'm so angry, unfortunately, Dasbuda, you come from Tembisa. And where you come from, you had to work your way up. Some of us come from politically affiliated families, myself included, even though more distantly than others. I come from a politically protected family. And from the politically protected families and their kids, Abu Simdope, who I was with in primary school, he was my senior.
Very well, by the way, at the memorial. Shout out to Simza.
Simdope got that scar on his mouth while climbing a tree with me. I was climbing a tree with him, and he climbed higher than me, and he fell off the tree at Radford House, a boutique private school. You know, we were taught that lateral thinking, the Edward de Bono. I was in primary school. Before Kiernan ever met Simdope, I was in primary school with Simdope. He fell out of that tree and onto a concrete block, which had steel reinforcement bars, which went through his mouth and then out his cheek. And they had to saw it off. Not one tear dropped down Simdope's eyes. I watched him the entire time. They removed that steel rod from him, right? They removed him from the concrete that it was attached to after sawing it off with the vibrations of the saw. He did not cry. And he said, big boys don't cry. And then he went off to go and get his stitches. And then after second break, he was back at school. That's Sim Dope. Now, Sim Dope had a soccer team at 16. Sim Dope did all the dog. Today we talk about Abu Andi Lempisane in their 20s, being chairmen of soccer. Sim Dope was doing that while he was still in high school in Mpumalanga. You know, he was one of those privileged kids whose father had worked so hard to reach the upper echelons of business as one of the first black people, you know, to reach those levels. I mean, he's an owner of the Lions as the first black owner of a rugby team. You understand? That's his father. And he was still the most humble person, the most humble human being. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why Kiernan had to honor him. You know, he had slight dyslexia, couldn't keep up with the pace. So I'd hook him up with crib notes. Back in college, you know, he couldn't keep up with the tempo. So I had to hook him up with crib notes. So educationally, or maybe let's say intellectually, as far as learning in the format, school wasn't really formatted for him. He was a guy who could figure things out. He was a guy who could figure people out. He was a guy who could make people all feel at ease, you know, feel like you were also as rich as him. You know what I mean? You'd never feel broke around Sim Dope, and he'd never floss on you. But I mean, Sim Dope's dad had the first Chrysler Grand Voyager. There was a Chrysler that came, there was a PT Cruiser that became famous, and then he came with the Grand Voyager, and the kids came out, you know, and the doors opened up.
To give
and the white people were like, what car is this?
To give a perspective to international viewers, Sim Dope's family booked Rick Ross to come perform
for a private party.
Not in the metropolitan part of South Africa, which they would say, which would be Johannesburg. Would go to their hometown where they come from in Elspruit, and they got the entire community to come watch Rick Ross mahala for free.
Like 55,000 people.
That was dope. That was dope.
That was Sim Dope's dad. And Sim Dope, you know, it's an initiative as well. That's Sim Dope's initiative. And so, I mean, you listen to songs like Sim Dope. It's one of my favorite AKA songs because it talks about the story of my father.
At the memorial service, Sim Dope did explain how it came about. And he says Keenan did pull up in Rosebank. I think they met up there. And he mentioned these words. He says, AKA came to him and he said, I just immortalized you, bro. I've just put your name on a song and it's going to be a big song.
And imagine knowing Sim Dope from primary school and then knowing that how he ended up going to high school with Kiernan, and Kiernan had this relationship with him. So the first time I listened to that song, I listened to it with those ears. And that's the guy who told me, big boys, don't cry.
Don't cry.
So you didn't see me crying on the timeline, but I was expressing anger, emotion, anger of a loss of a rivalry that has made me who I am.
Before we continue, do you admit that some of your rants or the way you spoke or your actions over the past week were uncalled, let me not say uncalled for, because
yes,
obviously
they were erratic and manic. And that's why my family signed all papers to put me, you know, under involuntary admission.
Is it?
Yes.
This is after your
everything, yes. Yes. So while I was speaking to...
Because a lot of people were worried about you.
I know.
People were calling me.
So
imagine what with him.
Imagine what happened with my family. You know what I mean? With my parents, you know? So then they decided, okay, so I'm telephone. You understand? I laugh about it now because I'm through it, but I mean, it wasn't very funny when it happened. So when it happened, right, my sister is coming to see me. I'm meeting up with Mtogo, who's like a Durban businessman who has billboards all over he's got billboards outside Orlando Stadium. I don't know if you saw the last ANC campaign, but those billboards outside the Orlando Stadium, that's some Togo's billboards. He's got a billboard on William Nicol. One of those billboards is right next to the garage where I buy coffee every single morning. And I sat with him, Togo, after Keenan's passing at Pantry at Dainfin Square. And he said, bro, I've got 2 weeks of no client on that billboard there outside Caltex. Let's do something for Kiernan. So we were going there, we were going to look at the billboard. We're right there on William Nicol in the street, you know, looking at the billboard, you know, my sister saying, yo, I'm coming to see you. I'm just concerned about you. I want to talk to you and everything else. While we're standing in the street, my sister pulls up because I told her that we're there. And she closes the window while I approach her and I'm like, how? And then another car pulls up and then guys in camo and guns and everything come out and say, listen, we're concerned about your safety. You're not the only person that we've come to, but we're taking some of Kiernan's friends who are having a hard time dealing with letting him go right now. Trust me, we're taking you to a safe place. So guys with guns, my sister, I trust. So I'm hoping she's not going to leave me in the hands of people who are going to take me somewhere to have my head chopped off or something like that. But the last thing I could do, you know what, after I realized that, you know what, maybe let me not even question what's happening, right? Because this is my sister, this is my older sister, and she will always have my best interest at heart. And I sat in the back seat. I asked them to open the window, and I screamed at my sister, kiss me. Because in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? If this is the last time I ever see my sister, at least let me kiss her.
Were you scared?
Terrified. And they reassured me. The guys spoke to me. They told me about a band that they used to do security for called Rubber Duck. And Rubber Duck's engineer ended up leaving Rubber Duck to become Kiernan's engineer, Tabiso. And I met him while he was Rubber Duck's engineer. And I asked him, how do you always get this Rubber Duck sound to sound so full? And he says, no, we pre-record and sequence the horns. So then I realized that, oh, damn it, when I'm pre-recording for the Questa band, right, I need to have the band sequence an entire horn section. And that's why when you listen to Questa playing live on stage, it sounds like he's got an entire brass band and sounds so full. It sounds fuller than the CD. The live performance sounds like you're at a stadium each and every single time. It's because we pre-recorded and sequenced, and we got that from Tabiso, who was Rubber Duck's engineer and ended up becoming Kiernan's engineer. And this is how you see how we competed, but we shared information. We gave each other tidbits. We gave each other, insider trading secrets and how to stay ahead. Kiernan,
backseat
I'm in the backseat. I'm going back. I
just don't want you to lose your train of thought.
I'm not losing my train of thought because I'm speaking about these guys. They're telling me about the story of Rubber Duck. So Kiernan as well, when it came beyond, the pop groups and everything else, he was one of the rap acts that was crossover across all audiences. And that was also something I tried to do for Questa, who is a K1 guy, but who can speak English like Ingabla. You understand? Fortunately for him, he's got the twang as well. He's got the Model C accent, and yes, he's still the most gassy guy you'll ever hear, on a mic. And I'm sitting there with these people and thinking, oh my goodness, these people have also been working with people who are part of this. They're telling me that, listen, where we're going, we're taking you, and people are in a worse condition than you are. So just brace yourself for that. Trust me. And then we drive N14, after we get from Four Ways out of Lanseria, and then I can see, okay, fine, on the Krugersdorp Road, we turn left as if we're going to Reimsig, and then right there, I think it's Stonehaven or something.
Or next to Bears Nodia, no?
No, it's on N14, all the way by Cruise. Yeah, it's on Bears Nodia, but I don't know what it becomes.
On your way to, what is that casino by Krugersdorp?
Yes, the Silver
Star Casino.
Yeah, but
around
before,
the area, right?
Yeah, but before,
Okay.
well before that.
Okay.
So Reimsig side,
Reimsig
around,
side.
yeah,
Not far from Eagle Canyon, Bears Nodia side.
Yeah, you understand? So when we get in, I see, okay, this is life. So clean, okay, it's a hospital, okay, and then they put me in the involuntary section, and they said, okay, fine, we're going to check you in. The nurses saw me, and they say, you're going to see a doctor tomorrow. It was a rehab center.
Sorry guys, I asked it in the most gassy way. I don't know if I'm sounding
Yeah.
politically incorrect. I don't want to get into trouble.
All I'm saying is that while I was there, the Afrikaner psychiatrist, and apologies to him because obviously they weren't taught to be sensitive to, certain racial biases. He had the nerve to say, I'm lucky that I'm in this place because I've got medical aid. No, I'm not lucky because I've got medical aid. I pay for medical aid. I afford medical aid. I worked hard to afford medical aid, even though his ancestors tried to make sure that everybody with my skin color cannot afford medical aid. So I was not taken to Sterkfontein. I was taken to a place that's like a resort.
Oh, okay.
Ngathi resort. But I was in the involuntary admission side, which is like a jail.
Isibhedlela samahlanga mara that's private school.
Yeah, private. Imbede mfana, kunama library, i-Wi-Fi is super fast. Super fast. Yonke into mfana nje
Now you can say your rent's quicker. Sorry, it's just a joke.
Bayayithatha ifoni yakho.
Continue.
Bayayithatha ifoni yakho.
Okay.
I-Wi-Fi yamanes. Yeah, and badlala ngayo phambi kwakho. And it's super fast. Yo. Yahalisa yo. Ngathi ungayi creeps ifoni yakho da.
It is the most suspects.
Download it, wonke ama-podcast. Download it, wonke ama-episode we-Hustlers Corner from start to finish. Mfana, download wonke fast. Mfana, before bakuxosha da. Mfana, I think in medical aid you charge at 3,000 rand per night. So I had 3 meals a day. And the first night, they put me on a mood stabilizer. I've got it saved here, sorry. And the name is it's.
How long were you there for?
I was there for 96 hours.
Okay, so this
so
is the
legally,
so pretty much 3 days.
Legally,
so this is the first night.
4 days.
Okay.
So legally, they're allowed to keep you there for 72 hours for observation before you can, if they don't find anything wrong with you or any real reason that you might be a danger to yourself, to extend your stay. So my family all went there. I was in a cell the first night where there's a gap underneath the door. It's a steel door. Nothing like a real thick, like I was in jail. And I was just relaxed because I was like, my sister brought me here, and if I act crazy, they're going to treat me like I'm crazy. And they sedated me. So I said, Fana, just try and figure out the situation, but just stay calm, Fana. Lalela yongi dabai shoy. So they put me under these things, and then the first night I could feel that, no, man, this pill that they're giving me is really taking me out. It's called olanzapine. Olanzapine is used to treat symptoms of schizophrenia, a mental illness that causes disturbed or unusual thinking, loss of interest in life, and strong, inappropriate emotions.
Kanye West.
Bangshaye La La Land. Yes, Zombie Land. I was in Zombie Land. Mangvuga from Zombie Land, I tell my nurses. And Tuesday.
Okay. I'm a weekend. Okay.
So Tuesday, mangvuga ngiti no nurse. Dog, no. That ain't izongsikisa. No, please, as a belief. Would you believe that every single nurse is a fan of the Hustlers Corner?
Are you serious? Asiyabong.
So the nurse then put me on placebos, just sugar tablets. After those sugar tablets, I was just calm. I was eating 3 meals a day. I was having enough water. I was having enough sunlight because going out into the sunlight and air, and you know what I mean?
Didn't you miss your phone?
No, I did not. It was bringing me stress. I had no stress. You understand? While I was in that, I was like, I found out when someone else got admitted that, listen, you've been section 33'd and these are your rights. They can release you after. So I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I've been here for 24 hours now. So it means I got 48 hours left before I can apply for a voluntary release, you know what I mean? Or discharge, you know? So I was like, okay, let me stay calm. This is a break that I needed, dog. I needed to be away from my phone. You know what I mean? I needed to be away from everything. I need to be away from the news. I need to be away from the video clips of my friend getting his brains blown out. It's traumatic. And I'm sorry for the way I reacted. Like I am, like honestly, I am truly
sorry.
Tell them. No, like seriously, like to a lot of the people that have been following my page, you know, I am sorry for the choice words that I used voluntarily because I really wanted the hurt and the pain that I was feeling to be reciprocated by the people that were watching these. I felt like people weren't hurt enough, and that made me angry because you don't know what this guy means to the country because we haven't honored him enough. And it felt like we haven't been allowed to honor him enough. And I don't know how many interviews I've done with you where I've spoken about Keenan.
Actually, even the previous episode, we spoke about Keenan not knowing that he's passing away the following day.
Every single time I get the opportunity, I always honor him. Every single time, I always say, everything that you have seen me succeed in is because of that man. And that's the truth, that's the fact of the matter. I started in high school because he had an album with his friends called the Royal School of Hip Hop. And then I knew that with the rest of my friends, right, we could also make it in hip hop. I mean, we're at a gallery here. We were invited by a great friend who I've also known since she was, I think, finishing primary school and in high school. And all of us as a group of friends, my group of friends, Elijah, you know, my first business partner, at Sofet Urbantainment, which is now Urbantainment only. And he's doing other business things, and we're still very close. You know, T1, Tumi, you know, Sizwe, you know, who's married to one of the daughters of Asylum, so one of the group members of Amaponi. And
Oh, you know Caesar?
Yes.
That's my guy. He used to shoot.
He was our first.
Caesar's company. Caesar shot the Remember When It Rained music video.
And he also was our first manager when we were in high school as a group of teens. You understand? And T1, his mother, is also business partners with Basitsana Kumalo at Connect TV, which is one of the companies that owns Tuelopele, and also one of the companies that owns shares in Publicis Group, and they're also on the board of Publicis Group.
And a lot of people always ask me who produced the remix beat for the Remember When It Rained was Stethoscope. I sometimes do forget about him. It's very important to give him his credit. Stethoscope. Shout out for that classic, bro.
You know what I mean?
Pity we never got paid for it, but thank you for the incredible work. Yeah.
No, but East Rand, you know, I mean, he also put on our proverb Attention after Attention, like he was one of the main producers, because after Attention, Proverb then became a name because he had such
actually,
a
Proverb introduced me to him.
Oh, good.
I didn't know him.
Yeah, because then
we're still at YFM together.
When he did, I think was it the Book of Proverbs was his debut, right?
Yeah, and then then Stetho introduced me to Sluda. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, exactly. That's another guy I also worked with, DJ Sluda, who's also been in the hip hop culture for a long, long time. All these people are part of a continuum, you know, that basically pulled down the fulcrum that raised SA hip hop to global heights. Keenan was the heaviest weight on that fulcrum, raising SA hip hop to global heights. To the point where I went to Los Angeles to accompany Shoma Josie, and Justice is behind the camera. There's a shirt that's behind him that he's going to throw to me right now, which I was wearing, which is Tsonga print, you know, which I had specially made for accompanying Shoma Josie. Just throw it, you know.
This is beautiful, bro.
Yeah, my wife picked this out and had it designed for me specially to go with Shoma Josie and make sure that I also represent our Shitsonga culture while I'm there. And everywhere I went while I was in LA, I was AKA. I was Sim Dope. You know what I mean? As if AKA wasn't there and I was coming back as Sim Dope. And I ended up sitting at the same table as Jamie Foxx.
Amunye umuntu sometimes nakabukela ngathi awunothi yawathanda manga too much.
Yeah, and I said with a straight face, Mfana. Ukinen, bengihleli as Ukinen.
Sometimes there's a clip where I'm like, Nota, you are lying.
Yeah.
People actually get mad at me. They're like, me again.
No, serious. Like, I'm not lying, dog.
I know, I understand.
And Ukinen is like, Nota, you love this networking stuff. Go network, man. Do some networking, dog. You're in LA now. Come, go to all the events I'm supposed to go to. And that's how I met Sylvia Rohn, who ended up giving Shoma Josie her international deal. The deals that Abo Kiernan turned down because he said, I'm a die here in the motherland. He said, I've done so much work to become super mega, right? Now people must stand on my shoulders to become global super megas from Africa. But I need to show them that starting right here at home is the most important part. And that's, you know, that's part of this 19 years that he's built up.
Before we continue, then you get served with legal papers.
While I'm inside, by my doctors, by my
still
psychiatrist.
Inside?
Yes.
Why would you accuse a soccer club
So
as one of your suspects?
It wasn't even about the soccer club. It was about Kiernan's fiance's funeral and the way in which he was treated, the way in which harsh words were spoken, and the way in which any suggestion that his fiancée might have taken her life was completely dismissed and made to seem as if it's a fabrication, a lie, or a cover-up to insinuate that there might be some culpability on his part.
But you understand that I'm a father to a baby girl. My daughter is 10 years old now.
I understand
As much
that.
as you cared about Keenan, but did you understand at that time?
Yes, at that time, yes.
Yeah, Uguti,
This
a
was 2 years
father
later.
And a family had actually just lost their
And
daughter.
what did I say at that time? I said exactly that. And I said, Kiernan will pay for this for the rest of his life. And I said that he's completely defeated. And that's exactly what he was. And you might feel like that's personal, private information. But if someone asks me, how was Smuda after losing his wife, or his fiance, I'll be honest with that answer. If he's not coping and he needs prayers and thoughts, I'll be honest, just in the same way Kiernan always said that, you know what, about NOTA, you might not like what he says, but he'll keep it straight. And that's exactly who Kiernan was. And if you listen to Nevo's speech at his memorial, they literally had to bring him back from complete and utter self-destruction. The mere fact that he was even capable of putting together an album. And people think that putting together an AKA album is easy. No, it's not easy, because you have to beat the best albums ever made.
Number one, you also have to clear all those samples. And not everybody's
But
in
Kiernan
the
can.
as you are. Like
No, but
sometimes they
Kiernan
might
can.
come back to you 2 months later.
Kiernan can. That's how big he was. People would gladly be sampled by him. Kanye West is at that level. People would gladly be sampled by him. Daft Punk rejects every sample, except for Kiernan around the world. And Kanye West, stronger.
And to give you an idea for the people who are not in the music industry, P. Diddy, on the I'll Be Missing You song, when Notorious B.I.G. died, that song became big. We were still young, we were kids at the time. He sampled Sting.
Who we spoke about last week.
We spoke about it on last week's episode.
We said that he sold out Sun Arena without posting his location.
Yeah. I wanted to say to people, just to give you an idea, till today, for the rest of his life, P. Diddy pays Sting about $3,000 every month for the rest of his life, P. Diddy.
And plus the percentage that Sting got, and what about the percentage that he
I'm
got?
not even just talking publishing, just for clearing that song. And go check out some of the interviews online. Just Google them.
On top
Sting
of that-
says it verbally himself.
On top of that, there's the Juice WRLD song, which he has, I think, over 84% of the publishing on. Juice WRLD's biggest hit as well. So, it's not just I'll Be Missing You or the police.
Back to the legal papers.
So I'm served with the legal papers to cease and desist. Now I've been sedated. Now I've been medicated. I've seen psychiatrists. I've calmed down. I've been off my phone. I've been off the emotions, because I was woken up to Kiernan's passing. My friend, my business partner, my childhood best friend who shares a birthday with Kiernan, 28th of January, texted me at 7 p.m. that day, said, let's go to Rockets. I didn't even reply. I just slept. I was woken up at 2 a.m. by people saying, Fana, why unga tweet, Fana? And I said, why? He said, dog, AKA. And I said, what about AKA? I said, he's dead.
Is that how they delivered the news to you?
Ngo 2 a.m. But mfana
Phone
why
call.
ungakatweet?
Phone call or
I was just ifone beyikhala since ikhala and yangivusa ngithi no man. Ubani lo ngo2 mfana like let me ithi ngimthuke lo muntu.
Sabagayile phone yakho trek.
No, this is before. This is on the Friday, on the Saturday morning.
Oh,
when I
okay,
found
when
out the
you're finding
news,
out.
I'm talking about how I found out.
Okay.
You understand? Like, yankwatisa. You're calling me at 2 a.m. You're interrupting my early night. I was supposed to go with my friends to Rockets. I skipped that. I said, let me sleep. Early night. Let me not engage in any Friday night activities. I just didn't feel the night. I didn't feel it. I wanted to sleep early that night. I was in bed by 8 p.m. And the way it was delivered, because this person was also angry. Like, he was angry at me. Like, dog, you're not saying anything, mfana. Umngani wakho, mfana. You understand what I'm saying? And even though in his past years, as much as I had to distance myself from Kiernan, for my own safety and for the protection of my freedom of speech and the better advice of our mutual friends, saying, bro, you need to be able to say what you need to say. And if they feel like you are defending or covering for Kiernan, they're going to shut out your voice. They're going to say you're biased.
But aren't you biased now?
I am. I've always been. But at the point where he needed me to defend him, I had to be completely impartial. I had to be biased against him so that I could be viewed as impartial. So that if ever the need arose for me to defend his legacy, I'd still have the reputation that is intact to do so.